it says, what I do and who it's not for. And so I think that probably plays into what you're talking about. So where did that idea come from?
Yeah.
I'd love to really know like why you have that page, because for many consultants, especially at the earlier stages, but even sometimes those that are, kind of somewhat established, the idea of putting up a roadblock or saying like, hey, don't come here, like I'm not for you, is a scary one. So where did that kind of idea originate from?
Yeah, real simple. That idea came from Frank Kern. I don't know if you're familiar with Frank, but I mean, Frank, I see as a master of communication.
Mm-hmm.
Man, he gets to the point. And I really love that he had this, that he had something similar to that. So I thought this is a great idea.
Right.
Who is this not for?
Right.
And that really fit in with what I was trying to do overall with the site and the strategy and the messaging, and is to what I really wanted to do in all of my content and my whole digital presence was make it very easy for anybody visiting to say, this is my guy or this is not my guy. That's it.
Yeah.
So when I saw that on Frank's side, I thought that's one extra thing that is a really good idea. And I know he has more psychological reasons behind that. He does a much better job of it. But for me, I thought this is good because it really helps to clarify. And this goes back, and I'll stop here. But early on, when you asked what a futurist is, I also wanted to make sure that folks that were just looking for somebody who's going to get up and say, hey, we want you to do a 90-minute keynote on what the next 50 years is going to look like, they would know real fast, like, that's not what I do.
Yeah. I'm really interested, like, what have you learned on your approach and your messaging in relation to marketing and having people want to have a conversation with you? Because as you've talked about this idea of a futurist, like people don't typically wake up going like, wow, yeah, I really need a futurist today. Right. It's, hey, I have a marketing problem. I want more leads, or, we're losing market share, so of course there is connection to the future. And if you can envision the future and plan for it, right, that could create a competitive advantage for you. But part of me thinks that a lot of people wouldn't recognize that, or it wouldn't be kind of their first thought. So what have you learned about how to make something that in some ways can almost come across as being like intangible, really relevant for people, so that people actually want to reach out to you and have conversations? Yeah,
that's pushed through in a lot of the content. And for me, everything starts with the person. If I'm working with somebody, a lot of my work is one-to-one coaching work, which I enjoy. I don't push a lot of advertising on that. It's just that tends to be what happens. Conversations get started and then opportunities open up in that arena.
Right.
That are working with small teams. And so our focus is really on ideas and different ways of thinking about how the world may unfold. Because if you start a conversation with, hey, artificial intelligence, and this is where it might be going, well, that's interesting, but that doesn't necessarily lead to business, right?
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're a keynote speaker, then maybe it does. Right. And that's not the end goal that I have. So for me, it's really, it's pushing on the front end more of the mindset that's necessary to identify possibilities, to think differently about where opportunities for your organization, for yourself, where those things may be. And a lot of that is removing, bad thinking.
So Jared, can you, sorry to interrupt and jump in, but I want to make this really tangible for everybody and practical. Can you give me an example? Like if you're saying the idea is not to say, hey, like here's where artificial intelligence is going to go in the next 25 years. Give me an example of if in one of your pieces of content, or if we were meeting face-to-face at some event, what would be your message or your approach to create that potential desire to kind of try and hook me as a prospective client?
Right. Yeah. In all of this here, the big differentiator is that I'm never going to tell you what to think. It's everything that I do in my work that I do with clients is around how to think. And that always starts with understanding what are the core skills or the tools that you need to have in order to see things before everybody else. And not just that, how do you identify those things and then take action on them early? And so a tangible way of looking at that, say if you're, we can maybe even just role play something here. If you have a situation or client that that you don't have to mention their name, but if there's a certain problem that they're dealing with, we can usually apply these types of skill sets to that problem. And the reason I say that is because pretty much all problems are future-oriented problems, right? Some are easy to fix, no problem at all. But for a lot of organizations, it's how do we ensure we're not constantly reacting to all the volatility that's going on now, whether that's in the market, whether it's in their space, whatever it might be, or they're just in that place of stagnation where they know that they've been successful. And it's almost always the ones who've been really successful. It's not folks that are dying and saying, oh man, our business is about to go under. Those people don't want to talk to me at all. And I don't blame them. I wouldn't either. They're in that survival state. It's the folks that have done well and they've hit the top, and then they're